Okay, so here's the lowdown. Battle Arena Toshinden was on the PlayStation 1 in 1995, but was known as Toshinden URA in Japan for the Saturn, and Battle Arena Toshinden Remix for the rest of the world. Then it got a sequel late the same year on the PlayStation 1, and the following year on the Saturn under the title Toshinden URA. The story is a police scientist named Ron creates an android fighter intended for law enforcement. The prototype is stolen and everyone suspects each other. On a side note, Ron is one of the worst characters I've ever used in a fighter. Presentation is functional at best. It doesn't even look particularly nice. Bland font, colours are okay, but in-game presentation is better. It's not great, just okay. Graphics are quite possibly better than I make them out to be. When I critically assess each part, it doesn't fare well, but when I sit back, the game's graphics are better than the sum of its parts. The backgrounds are 2D static images with no real detail or polish. The floors and various sprites are ugly as hell and lack any texturing. Frame rate and animation is poor and feels very airy where it looks like it's shy a few frames. Collision detection is also pretty bad. The soundtrack is like a 1 or 2 member indie band that aren't as good as they think they are. Sound effects are out of whack by a second or two when playing the game, but I can probably boil that down to a Japanese import on a PAL Saturn. Gameplay really feels like mashing either Z or C in a direction on the D-pad, and the outcome would be about the same no matter who I chose or how hard it was. The only reason you would look at the screen while playing is so that you don't jump out of the ring. The controls range from bad to average. If I want to execute a single move, it's responsive enough, but if I want to join them together or mash buttons, the game is at a complete loss. The fighting itself ranges between average to above average as the use of projectiles and weapons makes it interesting. However, due to other factors, it does feel tiresome after a while. Okay, sure, there's a 2-player, but only if you can stand the gameplay, as most of these complaints are actually made worse with a second player. Would I recommend this game? No. The game is average at best and lacks any kind of redeeming feature where it matters. In a game like this, you really need to have tight controls at the very least. The game could look like garbage, and to a degree I'd be okay with it provided that the gameplay was solid, but it's not.